If you open this video, pause for a moment. Don't rush away. This video is not for everyone. This video is for the ones who have quietly thought, "No one really sees me." If that sentence feels familiar, write this in the comments. I'm here. Nothing else is required. We're here. There is something rarely talked about in the life of Jesus. He did not grow through applause. He did not become strong through crowds. Much of his path was shaped by loneliness. People listened to him, but they didn't truly understand him. They walked beside him, but they did not carry his weight. They asked questions, but they were not ready for the answers. So, even among many people, Jesus was often alone. Chosen person, does this feel familiar? Being surrounded by people, yet feeling unseen. Wanting to explain yourself, but feeling that words fall short. Choosing silence, because explaining yourself again feels too exhausting. Jesus knew this experience. His loneliness was not about avoiding people. He was alone among people, because not everyone can carry depth, and people who carry depth are often misunderstood. They told Jesus, "You speak too deeply. You make people uncomfortable. Why go so far beneath the surface?" But Jesus refused to live on the surface. Chosen person, you became tired because you also refused to live shallowly. That was never your mistake. That was your nature. The life of Jesus shows us something important. Being misunderstood does not mean you are on the wrong path. Sometimes it means you are standing where others are not brave enough to stand. That is why you were left alone. That is why you were misunderstood. That is why you became quiet. But loneliness on this path was never the end. It was a pause. Now take a moment here. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove anything. Just know this: Jesus sees you. Your silence, your tiredness, everything you couldn't say out loud. If you're still here, write in the comments, "I'm here." That means I haven't disappeared. I'm still standing. We're here. Pause. Don't rush away. This is only the beginning. What tired Jesus the most was not hatred. It was being misunderstood. People listened to him, but few truly heard him. They asked questions, but they were not ready to carry the meaning behind the answers. They came close, but stepped back when things became too deep. Jesus did not make himself smaller to be accepted. He did not simplify the truth to make others comfortable. And because of that, he was misunderstood. Chosen person, you have lived this too. When you spoke, your words were twisted. When you shared how you felt, you were told you were exaggerating. When you became quiet, you were labeled distant or cold. But the truth was simple. You were just being yourself. Jesus was the same. Being misunderstood slowly wears a person down. Over time, you begin to think, maybe I'm not explaining myself well. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe it's safer to stay silent. Jesus chose silence at times, not as escape, not as weakness, but because trying to explain yourself to people who are not listening drains the soul. Jesus did not try to convince everyone. He did not answer every question, because some people are not looking for truth. They are looking for confirmation of what they already believe. Chosen person, you notice this too. People who appear to listen but have already decided who you are. People who ask questions without wanting to understand. This exhausted you. It pushed you inward, but it does not mean you were wrong. There is a truth clearly shown in the life of Jesus. Not everyone can carry truth. Some people prefer the surface, because depth forces people to confront themselves, and not everyone is ready for that. Jesus stood in places others avoided. That is why he was left alone. That is why he was misunderstood. But he did not step away from his path. Chosen person, you were left alone because you did not step away either. This is not a punishment, it is a cost. The hardest part of being misunderstood is the temptation to make yourself smaller, to soften your words, to hide your depth, to adjust your truth. But Jesus never reduced himself. He did not shrink to fit the room. And his life teaches us this. Making yourself smaller does not protect you. It slowly erases you. Chosen person, you have already given up many things, but you did not give up yourself. That is why you are here. Take a moment now. Do not defend yourself. Do not explain. Just remember this. Being misunderstood, being left alone, being judged, these were part of Jesus' path. And it was never the path of the weak. It was the path of depth. If you are still here, write in the comments, "I'm here." It means I didn't disappear. I'm still standing. We're here. There is a moment on Jesus' path that is rarely spoken about. A quiet moment. The moment of being left behind. Jesus knew that loneliness would come, but knowing something does not make it painless. He watched the people around him slowly fall away. Those who once promised loyalty became silent. Those who once said, "We're with you," looked away. And Jesus did not beg them to stay. He did not chase them, because real connection cannot be forced. Chosen person, you lived this too. There was a time when people stood beside you. You shared, you trusted, you opened yourself. But when you became tired, when you slowed down, when life became heavy, they slowly disappeared. And the hardest question followed. What did I do wrong? The life of Jesus shows us this. Sometimes people leave not because of you, but because they cannot carry the road. Being left behind does not scream. It is quiet. At first, you blame yourself. Maybe I was too much. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I'm not worth staying for. Jesus did not blame himself, because being left is not the same as being unworthy. Being left often means your depth was more than others could hold. Chosen person, your depth was not a flaw, it was simply heavy. There was something different about how Jesus handled abandonment. He did not close his heart. He did not harden himself. He also did not cling. He hoped without depending. This balance is rare. Wanting connection without losing yourself. Jesus understood this balance, and balance like this is learned in loneliness. Chosen person, being left behind, could have made you bitter. You could have shut down. You could have hardened. You could have stopped feeling. But you didn't. You are still here. Still capable of care. Still capable of feeling. This is not weakness. This is courage. Pause here for a moment. Think about the people who walked away. Do not accuse yourself. Just accept this truth. Not everyone was meant to walk your entire path. Some people are meant for a season, and that is not failure. If you are still here, write in the comments, "I'm here." It means I was left, but I did not leave myself. We're here. There is another heavy truth on the path of Jesus. A truth that begins where burdens are unseen. People saw Jesus, but they did not see the weight he carried. They heard his words, but they did not hear his nights. Crowds were present, but when support was needed, silence remained. Chosen person, you have lived this. People assumed you were fine, strong, capable, but they did not see the quiet moments, the times you counted money, the evenings you sat in silence, the tight feeling in your chest when you thought about the future. Jesus knew what poverty felt like. And poverty is not only about money. Poverty can be not being understood, not being supported, not being held. When loneliness and lack come together, they wear a person down quietly. You begin to shrink yourself. You want less. You speak less. You dream less. Because dreaming hurts more when it feels unreachable. Jesus did not shrink his vision, but he slowly withdrew his expectations from people. This is a deep lesson. Chosen person. Perhaps you became lonely because you stopped expecting others to carry what they could not. That did not make you weak. It made you honest. A quiet collapse is the most dangerous kind, because no one notices. You keep working, you keep showing up, you keep smiling. But inside, something slowly closes. On Jesus' path, there were many who carried pain silently. He saw them. He noticed those who carried weight without noise, and he stood beside them. Chosen person. This video is doing the same. Standing beside you. Pause here for a moment. Ask yourself this question. How long have I been trying not to be a burden? This question reveals a lot, because people who try not to burden others often carry the heaviest weight. Jesus knew this. That is why he invited the weary to come close. If you are still here, write in the comments, "I'm here." It means I'm carrying weight, but I'm still standing. We're here. Around Jesus, there were people who suffered loudly, but the ones he stayed closest to were often the silent ones, because silent people are usually the ones holding on the longest, the ones who do not complain, the ones who say, "I'm fine," the ones who keep going. Jesus saw what was behind that "I'm fine." Chosen person, you have lived this. You said you were okay. You said it would pass. You said you would handle it. And each time, you pulled a little further inward. Quiet strength looks strong from the outside, but on the inside, fatigue builds. Jesus knew that strength is not only about endurance. True strength is staying human while carrying pain. Quietly strong people do not try to prove themselves. They are tired of explaining, tired of defending, tired of waiting to be understood. Jesus did not try to prove who he was. He did not demand recognition. That is why there were moments when he chose silence, not as withdrawal, but as depth. Chosen person, your silence was misunderstood. People thought you were distant, cold, uninterested. But the truth is simpler. You were tired. The life of Jesus shows us this. You are not required to explain everything. You are not required to convince everyone. Some people will not understand you, and that does not reduce your value. Quiet strength comes with a cost. Eventually, the body gets exhausted. The spirit feels empty. Joy fades. But this exhaustion is not laziness. It is the result of staying strong for too long. Jesus showed that rest is not shameful. He never judged the weary. He invited them closer. Pause here. Ask yourself, how long have I been hard on myself? The answer explains a lot, because people who are hardest on themselves often learn to survive early. Jesus' path teaches gentleness toward the self. If you are still here, write in the comments, I'm here. It means I'm tired, but I haven't disappeared. We're here. There is a quiet turning point on the path of Jesus. It begins when a person stops punishing themselves. Most pain does not come from what happened. It comes from how long we blame ourselves for it. If I had been different, if I had seen it sooner, if I hadn't done that. Chosen person, you have said these things to yourself many times, and each time the weight grew heavier. Jesus saw how people turned against themselves, not learning from their past, but using it as a weapon. That is why he did not shame people. He did not drag their mistakes into the present. He asked something much simpler. Are you here now? Because change does not begin in the past. It begins here. Self-blame creates an illusion of control. It makes us think, if it was my fault, then I can prevent it next time. But life does not work that way. Some things happen even when your intentions are clean, even when your heart is open. Jesus lived this truth. He acted with integrity, with compassion, with honesty, and still he was misunderstood. Still, he was left alone. This teaches us something important. Not every pain is the result of a mistake. Some pain exists because depth attracts resistance. Chosen person, forgiving yourself is not optional. It is necessary. Because without self-forgiveness, you remain stuck. Jesus created space for people to forgive themselves, without humiliation, without judgment, without forcing change. That kind of compassion does not weaken a person, it lifts them. Self-forgiveness does not mean what happened didn't matter. It means I don't need to carry this forever. Chosen person, you have carried a lot. Regret, shame, endless what-ifs. These things were never meant to be permanent. The life of Jesus teaches release, not forgetting, but letting go. Pause here for a moment. Ask yourself this: what am I still using against myself? That answer reveals a lot, because when a person becomes their own judge, the punishment is always harsh. Jesus stood where mercy begins. If you are still here, write in the comments, I'm here. It means I'm choosing to stop punishing myself. We're here. There is no true ending on this kind of path, only moments where a person chooses to stay. Chosen person, you have been tired, you have been confused, you have felt lost, and yet you are still here. That matters more than you realize. Being here does not mean you have all the answers. It does not mean you are healed. It simply means you did not disappear when things became heavy. Here is something important to remember. Even when you feel lost, The path does not vanish. It waits, quietly, without pressure. You do not need to rush. You do not need to prove anything. You are allowed to move slowly. You have carried a lot without being seen. You have stayed human when it would have been easier to shut down. That is not weakness. That is resilience. Now take one last moment here. Say this to yourself. I'm still here. If that feels true, write it in the comments. I'm here. Not as a promise, not as a performance, just as presence. We are here every day when you're strong, when you're tired, when you're unsure. If you're here, stay connected, follow, and stay with us. This path does not have to be walked alone. If this feeling feels familiar, the full video is on the channel. Follow to continue.